Good afternoon and welcome to my humble model railway, Bedside Junction. Tonight is, or this evening, is very much an experiment. Now, what I've done is I've bought myself a new phone. Now, as you probably knew, I began my YouTube career with a phone. I actually used a Sony Xperia X to actually film my model railway to begin with. And then I moved on to a camera, which was the Canon M10. And then moved on to the Canon M50. I'll continue to use those for filming my railway, but in the meantime I thought what I'd do is find out what this new phone's like. Now it's a Sony Xperia 10 Mark III, and it's only just come out really, relatively new, and I've not had much of a chance to try it for video, and I thought, well, tonight this is my big chance to give it a go. Okay, so what we'll do, it's very much sort of unplanned, this particular one. It's been a very sleepy Sunday afternoon actually, so I'm a little bit dozy at the moment, so please forgive any mistakes I actually make on this video. But what we're going to do, without any further ado, we'll have a little look around and see what's on the railway. Okay, now I'm using a little kind of a selfie stick tripod thing, and it's not very stable, and if you sort of just touch it, it wobbles. You can touch this, see, you probably saw it wobble there. Okay, but we'll try our best with it this afternoon. So let's have a little look and see what's in here. Now, first of all, in the station here, we've got the Class 52 Western Courier, and we've got a Class 47 Mammoth. Okay, now I think probably this is the first time we've actually seen the Class 47 Mammoth on the railway, and that will give us a chance to have a look at her and find out what she's like. Okay, both of these were pre-lockdown purchases, so obviously I've added to the collection a lot during the lockdown, and I'll continue with my hobby even when lockdowns ease. What we're going to be looking for here, well, because we're using an experiment really with this, is what the focusing is like on this particular camera phone. And you please excuse any unsteadiness with this as well, because I'm used to doing this sort of handheld as well. Now up in the far station up there, you can see a Class 35 Hymek with a freight train, and a Class 121 bubble car. So that completes our fleet that's on the railway tonight. But what I'm going to do, without any further ado, we're going to have a look at our Class 47 Mammoth. Okay, and we'll talk about really about all the different locomotives on here and trains. Whether or not we'll get to run them all during the course of this video is another thing. But we'll have a look first of all and just see what we can do. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to change all the points to begin with. So, actually, with it being handheld, you can actually follow me around with what I'm doing. So, rather than it being on a tripod, you can see me actually change the points now. So the points are being changed there for the main line, and then we've got a further set of points just up here by the signal box, just here. And you can see me change the points there. So we should be able to reverse the train out from the station. So we'll just give that a go now. I'm going to be doing a lot of this handheld, and then we'll just put it down onto the tripod just brief when we want to just talk about it, and I'll keep my hands free. So we're just going to put this into reverse. First time I'm trying this with this phone, so here we go. There we are, a Class 47 Mammoth. Leaving the station there. We just stop over the signal there, and we change the direction to forward. Now, the controller I'm using, probably heard me clicking it there, it's a Hornby. Now please excuse the state of the baseboard, just there and everything else. This is where the baseboard sections were kept in an attic for quite a long time. Kept them in my attic. Okay, so you can see there's various sort of blobs and bits all over the layout there. I do intend to decorate this one day, I promise. There we go, so that's the controller. We've moved into forward. Now we're going to move forward now and have a look at changing the points. There we are, so now we change the points. Now we're going to put the put the camera down just a moment. We can see if we can film this going around the layout. So let's have a look and just see now. We'll move it into forward gear. You can see Mammoth pulling away there quite happily. And then we can talk a little bit about the Class 47s. Now, the Class 47s actually first began to see service on the Western region of British Railway as early as 1963. Now this was while there were still diesel hydraulics on the railway, and in fact this one differs from the ones built for the Western region of British Rail initially, in that the Western region of British Rail went on their own with everything, and they decided to go down the route of building diesel hydraulic locomotives. In fact, what they did is that they went to Germany to look for their inspiration for their designs, and that's where they took on the diesel hydraulic designs, which you'll see in other of our Western ones. But these were built by Brush, I believe, and we'll just have a little yeah, Brush Type 4, and they were built between 1962 and 1968. Now they were the most numerous of locomotives built for British Railways, and they were used on all regions of British Rail, including the Western region. Now the model you see going around here at the moment is a Hornby Class 47, and let's say I bought this during the pre-lockdown, beg your pardon, pre-lockdown. And you can see it's quite a nice little runner as well. It's going around the track there. Now one thing you'll notice about this one, and we'll do a little experiment so we can see how clearly we can see this. Now the front end of the locomotive lights up. In fact the cabs light up according to the direction of travel. Now this, when these models were actually built by Hornby, this is probably about as good as it got, because they didn't have DCC back then with the Class 47s or any of their locomotives. I'm going to have a little look and just find out if I can see when this locomotive was actually built. Yeah, I was just looking at the leaflet which came with this, and it don't appear to be the right leaflet to go with the locomotive itself, which seems a bit strange. Okay, well let's not worry about that. But this is the box that actually came in. We can have a look at this now. R073 BR Class 47 diesel locomotive. You can see the box is slightly damaged there. In fact, that's the condition in which I bought this. And this is the leaflet which came with it. This sort of came as a sort of goes the window of the box. It tells you it's COCO Coco diesel electric locomotive. C meaning it's got 3 sets of driving wheels. So C and C there. And you can see it's in two-tone green livery, much the same with the Hymek, which we've got here running here. And it's also got the BR crest on there, which you would have seen on steam locomotives. Now the dieselisation of British Railways was really a time of great upheaval for everybody serving on the railways, and it meant learning of a lot of new skills to actually drive and to maintain these locomotives, and certainly a lot of people who had a long service with steam engines, some of them found these new forms of traction sometimes difficult to cope with. You can imagine if you were working a particular way, say for 30 odd years, and suddenly you're at the peak of your career, you've worked your way up to driving steam engines, the big expresses. With the Western region of British Railways, you might be driving a Castle or a King, and suddenly on the onset of the 1960s, they begin to introduce diesel locomotives, and you see the steam engines actually gradually being phased out. Now these actual Class 47s, 78 of these still existed in 2020, so they are still in service with our British railway system even today. 32 have been preserved, so 32 have been preserved while there's actually one still in service, which is quite interesting. I mean, normally, back in the days when steam engines were being withdrawn, probably preservation began when the final withdrawals had actually taken place, so that's a bit of a difference. Now, according to my information, one of these is actually preserved on the West Somerset Railway, which is quite local to me. That runs between Bishop's Lydiard and Minehead, and so that gives it a more of a local connection for me. Okay, so that's our Class 47 Mammoth. And we'll see if we can have a closer look at her in just a few moments. We'll bring her round. This is probably a nice angle just here to take a look at her, like this. It's quite close to the controller, so we'll have to be careful. But there we are. That's Hornby Class Mammoth there. Now, even though the box was slightly damaged, it is in lovely condition, as you can see. You can see the different two-tone green there. It's got a ring-filled motor inside of it, as most Hornby locomotives of the period that this was actually built in. D1670 Mammoth. And we'll take a look at the front end of this one. Now, you've got to mind excuse the controller being in the way a little bit there, but we'll have a little look and we'll just see this. Well, my hand's in the way too. We're going to reverse her back. Okay, then we can see this feature. See if it shows up. There you can see the front end lights up. So you can see the route board actually lights up, the destination board lights up, and so does the cab. And these were used for fast express duties, these particular locomotives. Now, one of the things that happened with the Western region of British Rail is that, like I said, they went on their own as far as diesel electrics were diesel and hydraulics were concerned. They went with the diesel hydraulic system. Okay, this is the diesel electric. So these would have been the locomotives that would have been drafted in really with the mind possibly to replacing the diesel hydraulics. Okay, and we'll have a look over here now. That's a diesel hydraulic there, Western Courier, and you can see our Class 47 in a BR Green Mammoth going round now. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring Mammoth in. That's it. And what we'll do now is we're going to change the points once more. That's it. And then we'll watch Mammoth coming in now. So please excuse any jolts or anything on this because I'm going handheld, of course. But there we are. This is a Mammoth. You can see how this Hornby locomotive handles points. Straight over the set of points, no hesitation whatsoever. Nice and quiet in operation. Beautiful control, look at that. Excellent. Unbeatable. Okay, so now the locomotive next to it is a Western Courier, and that's in BR Maroon. Please excuse some of the extra things on the table there. We'll move those over to one side. Excuse me. Right, now we need another change of points. And for the sake of our video today, we're going to change lines completely. In fact, I've decided to put the freight train on for the moment. Now, this will give us a chance to have a closer look at the other station, which we don't very often get a chance to see. Let's come across and have a look. Imagine the trains are thundering through here at high speed when I'm running my railway. You can see our class 121 bubble car there waiting for duty. And there's our freight train behind the class 35 Hymek. Okay, so what we're going to do then is we're going to change the points a little bit here now. So that's for the Hymek. Now we should in theory be able to bring out the Hymek now. Okay, so let's see if we can do that now for you. And we'll have a little look at the actual train that this has got here, because it's quite interesting what it's got. You've got the Hymek locomotive there. There's a banana wagon, salt wagon, the whale wagon, fruit van, and a brake van. Have a close look at these points. Now you can see them being changed. There we are. So now we know we're on the main line. Now let's excuse me, my arm keeps jogging the tripod as I come around. So sorry about any little jolts there, but that's our Hymek in operation. Now, even though we've been making YouTube videos for a best part of a year now, possibly a little bit longer, there's still a learning curve for me. I'm learning various things on here, and what we're learning about here is really what it's like to use a phone handheld. Now, like I say, this is on a kind of a tripod selfie stick. So what I do is I'll every now and again you will see the occasional jolt, because I keep catching the tripod as I'm moving it around. But there's a class 35 Hymek there, another Hornby model. And we'll see if we can get a closer look in a moment as well. Bayer Peacock class 35 Hymek locomotive. Comes with the insert there. Again, the box is a bit damaged. It came from a toy and train fair. That's the box it came in there. Okay, I know some of you probably are not interested in boxes. You sort of think, well, it's just you know, something that's used to contain the model. But really, the boxing is for me is part of the buying experience. Really, when you receive a locomotive and you get out of the box, obviously for me the box is all part of the experience, and I think locomotives are worth more boxed than unboxed as well. And obviously with that locomotive there, our class 35, it's obviously been very much played with. As far as I know, it comes from about 1966, these particular models. I think they made them later on in the BR Blue livery, and then they made another comeback again in the 1970s. So it's a very, very ongoing model. I think, judging by the motor, this particular Hymek comes from the from the 1966 catalogue. That's when it first appeared with Hornby. And again, the Hymeks appeared all over the western region of British Rail. Here we can see it pulling a freight train. Now, as far as freight's concerned as well, I mean, freight's an interesting thing because it's obviously the way that our commodities were and still are carried around the country. And in fact, a lot of the freight traffic went onto the road, especially with the building of the motorways. And one of the transport ministers, I think it was Marple, having an invested interest in a road building company, then you know, probably railways were in for a hard time in the 1960s. There was also the Beeching report, which came out in the 1960s, and the modernisation plan of the 1950s. So that meant that a lot of our steam engines were due to disappear. In fact, they all were to disappear on the British Railways Western region by March 1966. So what we're looking at really now is what are the successors to the steam engines. So we can imagine probably now that we've gone into the mid 60s now, and the Beeching report is well in swing. The axe is falling down on many railways, many branch lines, unfortunately. I think the plan was, under the Beeching report, was that they would be concentrating on main lines between major cities, and that really there wasn't much of a call for the branch lines. I mean, a lot of people were buying cars in the 1950s onwards. You had, first of all, the appearance of cars like the Mini and the Morris Minor, and that meant that cars were available to a larger number of the public, who then obviously decided to transfer their loyalties to travelling by road. So the railways were under stiff competition, and they were losing money at an alarming rate. Now, a lot of people would disagree with Dr. Beeching. I disagree with the actual magnitude of the cuts. I think, yes, there were some uneconomical lines that possibly would have closed anyway without Dr. Beeching, but unfortunately the axe was swung rather vigorously, and it was quite a shock to a lot of people to see so many railway lines closed. Now, the Hymeks came into service in the early 1960s, but were all gone by 1975. Now, it was a lot to do with the dieselisation plan, because under the dieselisation plan, a lot of the regions were given autonomy as to where they would source their diesels from and what kind of diesels they were. There were very much a lot of experimental locomotives out there too, but then they came up with two tractions. It was almost like the battle of the gauges, you know, but back in the 1800s, where the western region of British Rail, the Great Western Railway at the time, had gone with broad gauge, and the rest of the country had gone with standard gauge. So it happened here that the rest of the country were using diesel electric locomotives, I beg your pardon, and the western region of British Rail decided to use diesel hydraulic. It meant that their locomotives were treated as non-standard, and there were problems as well when any of these locomotives strayed out of their regions, especially where there were any servicing required on these locomotives. They had to always return back to their original western region places in order to be worked on. Maybe that's our diesel hydraulic locomotive going round. Please forgive me if I get a little bit mixed up in my words this afternoon. Only it's quite a drowsy day today, unfortunately. But I certainly find it a drowsy day. The weather can't seem to be able to make up its mind between sunshine and rain. And it did seem to go dark rather early as well today. So anyway, less of that. So we'll get back onto the railways. Now, the actual some of the commodities that are on this are quite interesting. You've got your Fife's Bananas wagon. In fact, the Southern Railway actually named one of their locomotives after that company. It was called Elder Fifes, one of the Merchant Navy class. So the actual company of the that supplied these bananas actually had an influence on the name of locomotives. Okay, you've got our sacks of salt, which we still see in the shops today, and then the well wagon that was obviously used as, to carry quite long, heavy loads. I don't very often see the well wagon out here, and I will have a little look at the box for that in a minute, if I can find it. Ah, here we are, the well wagon. The big long wagon you can see there behind the sacks of salt van. 33902 45-ton Bodie well wagon in BR Grey. Backman, so we haven't seen that one before on the railway either. And one of the reasons why you don't see it very often is obviously I can fit more wagons on to my little short sidings. This is only a 6 foot by 4 foot layout. You can see around it quite well there now. Now, I think 100 of these locomotives were actually built of the Class 35 Hymek. I'll go to that in just a moment. Just watch it going around just for a moment. Yeah, 101 of these were built between 1961 and 1964, and they were withdrawn between 1971 and 1975, and 4 were preserved. Sorry if I got a little bit off track there with that, and I was looking at something else with the camera. Now you can see the train going around there quite clearly now. Now, let's say there's very much an experiment tonight, so please excuse any kind of little mistakes I've made in my ramblings. You know, where I got mixed up between hydraulic and electric traction. So we'll get this straight now. That's a diesel electric, and then the other locomotive, the other 2 locomotives there, the Western and that one there, are diesel hydraulics. Okay, so sorry if I got a bit mixed up earlier on. Now you can imagine what it was like after the war, when things like bananas become available. Now it may seem unusual to people, an unusual thing to say, but there was a lot of people, because of wartime shortages and everything else. Imagine that the Second World War went on for quite some time, and there was rationing for quite a long time after the Second World War. Things like bananas weren't available to a large amount of people, a large number of people. And as far as bananas were concerned, a lot of people weren't even sure how to eat them. I think some people didn't even know you had to peel them. I know it sounds a funny thing to mention now, but it's something so commonplace today. But something like a banana would be something which we consider quite a rare treat. Now the little fruit van, which is just in front of the brake van, that's got relevance for us obviously, because we've done a series where we talked about the strawberry line in a previous video, and perhaps we can imagine this wagon is carrying fruit, like we're carrying strawberries, where people are going to be eating strawberries during the Wimbledon week. I think it's Wimbledon week at the moment. Okay, so that's another piece of local interest. And let's have a look at the train as it comes in. Comes around now, comes in close. Let's see if we can get a proper look at everything. Okay, round it comes, so that's our Hymek. In green, 2-tone green, again with the BR crest on it, D7063. There's our banana wagon, blue label, 5 brand, And I can remember back in the 1960s, certainly for us at least, when I was growing up during the 1960s, again bananas were quite a treat to have. And I don't think people might do it today, but we used to make banana sandwiches. You used to get 2 pieces of bread and butter, put a slice of banana in the sandwich, put sugar on, and that was our banana sandwiches. Quite a treat for us. Sacks of salt. What can we say about sacks of salt? I had fish and chips yesterday, and I had far too much salt on on them. That was good for me. I don't think I don't think I like food without salt. A lot of people would probably be crying out in protest and saying I should have less salt, but the food don't taste right without it, does it? There's our whale wagon. It's got swivelling bogies at either end. You probably can't see them from here. There's a bogie whale wagon. And there's our fruit van. In fact, in a video I've actually bought quite recently about the Cheddar Valley line, they do show the last lot of strawberries being loaded up for the Cheddar Valley line to carry the strawberries down to Yatton. And it would have been in a fruit van similar to this. The Western Region fruit van. Again, strawberries, quite a treat for people. Strawberries and cream. Probably a lot of people at the time would have only eaten strawberries at Wimbledon week. And then there's our brake van there, our Batman brake van there. Okay, so you've got a chance to have a little look at everything that's on here today. Please excuse me. Now we're going to draw things to a close now. I say thanks very much for watching, and I'd say please bear with me with this particular one because I was actually filming for the first time with this with my new phone, as opposed to using a camera which is on a tripod. So we're looking around. I think we see quite clearly around there as well. I think the focusing is not too bad either on this particular one. As with all things, they do take a while to find their feet. I find cameras in phones. But I hope you found this of interest. Now, if you like what you see, press like and subscribe to see more videos. Ring that bell as well for alerts on new videos of mine. I will be making more videos for you. And I hope you found this of interest. And thank you very, very much for watching. And goodbye.